We interrupt your regularly scheduled program for this special report.
And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the newest episode of the Jobber Jab. We're doing a little bit different this time. We got some distance recording going on. As always, I am the last man standing, Christopher Hart, and my partner.
As always, the imperfect King Cruz. Sorry for the wait, but like fine wine, it takes time to be this good. Just keep in mind, we got some great things coming up. We have some clothing line coming up. Some gifts will be given out soon. We got a lot of good things that we have planned. We're under construction for a little bit, but we're excited to get back to it.
We're restructuring, if you will, kind of like the WWE is right now. We'll get to that.
Yeah, we're making some budget cuts.
All right, so jumping right in, we had the Double or Nothing pay-per-view with AEW. And
outstanding pay-per-view, by the way.
It was a great pay-per-view from top to bottom. It was stacked. We'll hit on a couple of our favorite matches, though, starting with one of your favorite matches.
Stadium Stampede. Right now, I think there's only two matches that they've had, and the Inner Circle being a part of both. This right here is, without a doubt, my favorite gimmick match. What they can do in a football stadium just again speaks volumes about AEW's creative, how talent has creative freedom.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you had Sammy Guevara using a forklift like a jungle gym, just to get thrown like a lawn dart into a garage door. Urban Meyer, who I'm not a fan of because of his time at Ohio State, but handed a laptop to Jericho to smack MJF with. The fact that it just pushed that entire feud, MJF and Chris Jericho, further. That culmination will be a good one. I mean, that's like past looking at present
and or future.
Yeah. Seeing Conan as a cameo was pretty sweet with his history with LAX, and then obviously getting involved and helping out with Tully Blanchard.
Mm-hmm.
It was cool to see Conan in some capacity. I was hoping you'd see him sooner or later with LAX. It's only a matter of time.
Definitely, yeah.
But definitely, Stadium Stampede's just a great match.
I do agree with Conan. I think we'll see him in a broader perspective at some point with Ortiz and Santana. I mean, he can't exactly throw up the Tequila Sunrise anymore, but you know what? He's always been a good manager. Going back all the way to WCW with Filthy Animals, the NWO. I mean, always been a good manager. But I do agree. I do like the Stadium Stampede. I like how this is the second year. I like how they've done stable versus stable. The first year is the Elite versus the Inner Circle. So as like you're saying, as gimmick matches go, I'd say this is definitely up there. This is ranked across the board equally. I wouldn't say it's just above the original ladder matches or the original TLC matches.
Yes, and I think what's so special about it too is, I mean, this is just the second one.
Yeah.
Obviously, too much of a good thing can be a bad thing, so I hope they don't overuse it. I mean, use the Stadium Stampede match for the right time, the right storyline. Obviously, this was it. I mean, the Pinnacle and Inner Circle was a big storyline. It had to come to a head some way, and outside of their last match, the War Games, which, I mean, I'll call it War Games because that's what I know it as.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of the conclusion, which was the main thing everybody talked about, was how it ended, how they used the wrong camera to see Jericho falling. Following it up with the Stadium Stampede was the perfect match for them. The creative freedom they have. This does not, by any means, top the first one. The first one will not be topped. Match of the Year awards all around for the very first Stadium Stampede,
mm-hmm.
but a great follow-up. Again, it's because we don't see it a lot. I mean, what made the TLC matches, the ladder matches, the table matches, and then eventually the TLC match popular was because you didn't see it often. But when you did, you knew you were going to get something special. Every time you have a match, you have to top what you did. Every time you have a gimmick match, you have to top what you did last time.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the Hardys and Edge and Christian and the Dudleys had to do every time they did it. After so long, you have so many, you run out of ideas. and not so many run out of ideas, but it gets dangerous. Where how can I top this?
Mm-hmm.
Stadium Stampede is not going to get stale right now. I just don't want to see too much of it. But right now, that is my favorite gimmick match. Those guys they went at it. Everybody in that match. I mean, it is fantastic. AEW definitely does those matches incredible.
And now with things,
But just go ahead.
I would say now with things opening back up, it seems like Double or Nothing is kind of going to be AEW's WrestleMania, Wrestle Kingdom, you know. And they do it at a point in time in the year where you really don't have a lot of competition, so they can make that their big pay-per-view. And with everything opening back up in the world, going to other stadiums is going to be an awesome addition to that. I can only imagine what they would actually do in Vegas. They can go, to the Golden Knights Stadium or the new Raider Stadium and just completely wreak havoc on it. It'll be awesome.
Oh yeah, I got a feeling with something like that in Vegas, you're going to be wrestling through Caesar's Palace. I mean, I can see Jericho throwing somebody's head through a slot machine and then it reading, triple sevens and him hitting the jackpot.
Mm-hmm.
And if that happens, I want credit for that.
We're calling it now.
I'm calling that now. If I'm doing a gimmick match with some kind of cinematic moment, that's the one in Vegas. But again, with AEW's Double or Nothing, I mean, that was just fantastic lineup. I mean, I had favorite matches, obviously Stadium Stampede, seeing Sting and Darby Allin.
Mm-hmm.
Again, anytime Sting's in the ring, I do get worried sometimes because of his previous injury, but obviously he's cleared. But it was a great match. Darby Allin bumps like no other. The guy takes a hit, and he took most of the punishment like he should. And Sting is the one that gets the Stinger death drop in his hand raised high later.
Mm-hmm.
That was obviously a favorite of mine. I grew up watching Sting, so I love that. Britt Baker. So it's nice seeing her get her just due and winning the title.
Yes, it was good seeing
definitely
her.
A stacked card over there at AEW.
Moving on to another match from AEW, you had the Best Bout Machine, Kenny Omega.
Best Bout Machine. My only issue,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, all the participated in this match was great. My only issue was the use of every one of the belts. He used every one of them. He needed every one of them to win. I get that's the character right now.
Mm-hmm.
I just never liked those characters. And it's nothing against Kenny Omega. I just never liked those characters. He is so damn good where it shouldn't be needed. And maybe that's exactly how I'm supposed to feel. Maybe that's what they want out of me. Maybe that's exactly what they want me to feel towards them. I just think, having to use all four of your belts, being the collector, I thought it was, it just didn't sit well with me.
And it's great because, I mean, on the flip side, like I said, I love watching Kenny Omega in the ring. On the flip side, you had Orange Cassidy in the ring with him. And just out the door, I mean, you've got hitting, he's hitting his shotgun drop kicks. He's hitting his Hurricane Ranas. He's hitting all those moves that Cassidy is really known for, all while his hands are in his pocket. You just can't beat that kind of action. So it's funny because they almost make it seem like if Cassidy really wanted to try, he would beat Omega. Unfortunately, I don't see it that way. I mean, Orange Cassidy is a great talent, but and we'll talk about it some more later. But again, he's not up there with Omega quite just yet. They're building him the right way, and with time, I think he could be. He's gonna need a little bit of a character change. This whole don't give a damn attitude, antisocial angle that he's got with it. It's not going to be that AEW champion character. He's going to have to change it up a little bit, but all in all, I thought it was a really good back and forth match.
Oh, I 100% agree with you. It's great and refreshing seeing Orange Cassidy in a main event scene. I mean, a character like that, you would never think a guy who just puts his hands in his pockets gets the reaction he does from that crowd.
Mm-hmm.
When he winds up for that low kick, the reaction he gets is phenomenal.
It's
I mean, you couldn't pay for that.
It's equivalent to the old shake, rattle, and roll reaction you'd get from the crowd. Everybody just one hit after the other, you know.
Absolutely. And I get the whole hands in my pocket. I don't care. I make this look easy. But you're right. Eventually, that character does need to move on. It does need to change, evolve, as you will. But it's so refreshing seeing him in a main event scene. And then you got Pac rounding out the three guys that were in it. I mean, there's not a bad moment in that match. The chemistry all of them have. Like I said, the only thing I disliked was the finish. I just feel like AEW has a hard time with the finish. The finish is all we ever talk about with AEW. It takes away so much from, the exploding firecracker ring to Jericho falling from the cage to cardboard and a crash pad. And then the 4 titles being used. I don't. It's just the ending. I think they round out everything perfectly. Everything leading up to the ending is perfect. And then sometimes you lose, man. But I mean, those 3 men are phenomenal. They deserve the spots they're at. These are main event players that placed somewhere else in a different company, Land of the Giants, they're not looked at.
Yeah.
But Pac deserves every credit. Kenny Omega definitely puts on great performances, and then Orange Cassidy. I mean, the guy's good. He plays that gimmick perfectly.
He does play that gimmick very perfectly. And then just throwing a little bit of love towards Kenny Omega. He's got a couple of other matches coming up. So on the Impact side, I think he's going up against Moose. June 12th again, at Against All Odds. So he'll be defending both of his titles there for that one. I'm kind of curious when they're gonna do the unification match and come up with a new title, but we'll cross that bridge when it gets there.
Before you move on, before you move on, because you talked about Moose. I believe the guy's name is Don Callis, right?
Yeah,
the guy that's aligned himself. Okay. Can I say his dig at Moose when he said, "You're gonna beat the great match machine, Kenny Omega, and you couldn't even win a title at Ring of Honor."
Yes, that dig hurt. Wow. You could tell that he was trying to cut deep on that one.
I felt that to my core. Like, Callis woke up and decided to choose violence and just rip this man's soul from his body. And told him you couldn't win in Ring of Honor and you expect to beat Kenny Omega. That sold me. Because if you're not building it, you look at Moose, you're not thinking he's the underdog. You're not. That guy's built like a truck. But he is. He's the underdog. And holy shit, did that sell it.
And it was good. Throw a little bit of that fuel to the flame, type of...
Absolutely. But go ahead and continue.
And then you've got, on the other side of it, you've got Kenny Omega versus Andrade for, it's the AAA, I want to say it's the Wrestling Gods title, right? Hang on.
Yes, I believe so.
I think pretty sure that's and that's going to be at their version of WrestleMania here coming up. I don't have a date for that. Dang it, I should have looked it up. But it's Triple Mania.
Shout out to Andrade, who deserves the spotlight. They're going to tear that down.
August 14th. That's when Triple Mania is going to be. So, and yeah, you'll have them going for that AAA. I think it's the Wrestling God Championship, if I remember correctly.
I mean, since we did bring up AAA, I am going to show off my Latino Heat shirt.
There you go.
I love it. Got to. Andrade just had so much of that Latino heat that Eddie Guerrero had. Great talent. He's definitely those two are gonna tear the house down. I mean, I'm thinking NXT vibes of Andrade and Johnny Gargano.
That was it.
These guys.
Damn good rivalry that they
These
had
guys are gonna go. Yeah. These guys are gonna go.
So, I mean, obviously, looking at the promo picture, he's not wearing his mask. Do you think he'll go back to coming out with his mask? I'd like to see him return back to his roots and maybe not wear the mask 100% of the time, but at least how he started off in the WWE, paying homage to his roots and to his lucha character.
I think it's almost poetic. I think he needs to because he's going back home. He's going to show out for his people, La Raza, as we should put it. he should put it on. I like the idea of him not having it on 100% of the time. Obviously with the luchador, how they tell their mask is their identity.
Hmm.
So it's I don't know how common it would be for a luchador to put on and take off his mask, as it is their identity. I mean, they were so long that you didn't see Rey Mysterio without a mask on ever, and
No,
when he had to lose it in WCW,
it was
it
a
was a big deal to him. He almost quit.
yeah.
So luchadors, their masks are everything. So it's off now. Obviously, we know Andrade. We know what he looks like. I think it's almost it needs to happen. It needs to come back on. Pay homage to who you were then,
Hmm.
but he's so marketable. I would definitely not have it on 100% of the time. He is just so marketable.
Hmm.
Um, Good looking dude. You can definitely build off of this guy. And obviously being in AAA, he doesn't need no English.
Hmm.
But if he does transition to AEW, TNA, if he ends up back to WWE, if he gets over with his English a little bit better, if not, get him a manager. But I mean, he's so bankable. Guy has money written all over him. The guy can go with anybody. He makes anybody look good. But the mask definitely comes back on for his return. Um, it just might not be on 100% of the time.
Hmm. Gotcha. Well, and speaking of former WWE employees, a lot of sad news this last week with some new unfortunate releases.
So I'm reading a lot of rumor.
Hmm.
Um, Rumor has it that they're cleaning house. They gotta cut some. Obviously, budget cuts is what they're saying. Um, Rumor has it that NBC is looking to purchase WWE.
Yes.
That that Vince is trying to sell anywhere upwards of for 2 billion to 4 billion for WWE. Obviously, AEW has emerged as a serious competitor, which at the time when they first started, maybe I didn't take it so seriously because WWE is a juggernaut. But it was stated that if all the companies came together, they could be a legitimate threat, and not so much a threat, but another place. You can have another. You can be successful somewhere
Hmm.
else and be okay. You didn't need WWE,
Well,
and AEW is definitely doing that.
and I mean, to be fair, we've been saying it since the beginning of AEW. With them allowing their talent to go elsewhere, with them allowing their talent to have other, to do Comic Cons and fan meets and go to other promotions, whether it's an indie promotion or another big name promotion. You're broadening your horizon so much that it's hard to at this point, I imagine it's got to be hard to want to even be in the WWE to begin with, especially if you're a talent like we'll go with Murphy. He's a phenomenal talent. He was great as a tag team,
Yeah.
and he's being heavily underutilized. I mean, I think he was thrown into the Mysterio storyline for a little bit there, and then they kind of just dropped it and did
Yeah.
nothing with him. Um,
Mhm.
so you take a talent like that and you give him all the opportunity in the world. Hey, I can go to Japan. I can go to NWA. I can go to
Mhm.
AAA, wherever. Um,
All right.
the possibilities are endless for these guys now. And
Yeah.
I mean, and it's kind of funny because I was thinking about this the other day, and Jerry the King Lawler did an old school promo at one point in time where he used to talk about how Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair couldn't call themselves world champions because they were company champions, because WWE and WCW at the time didn't allow them to compete outside of the company. And Jerry
Right.
Lawler was saying, I'm the world champion. I have this title. I've defended it in Canada, Japan, Mexico. I've taken it all over the United States. And to think of it as a legitimate possibility to have an actual world champion, that's exciting. That's kind of cool. You never know where they're going to
Yeah.
pop up. You never know where their next title defense is
Right.
going to be. But sorry, segueing too far off the path here. We did have some releases. I think Aleister Black and Braun Strowman were like the big ones, and Ruby Riot.
Wow.
Um, big shock to me, at least personally, especially you had Aleister Black coming back with his new gimmick. Just to see him get dropped like that.
And him just starting a new storyline. I mean,
Hmm.
he just started a storyline with Big E that was supposed to continue this week. So to see him get dropped, I was thoroughly shocked. Just no way. Like I remember logging onto Instagram and seeing Braun Strowman was released. I was like, a troll got me. Okay, whatever. And then I go to Bleacher Report, and sure enough, now I know he signed a monster contract. Um,
Back when WWE was doing their
and
talent hoarding.
yes, when they're doing the talent hoarding, he signed a monster contract for him.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not blown away that I was shocked they released him, but thinking business wise, he wasn't doing anything. So underutilized. I mean, they had a chance to build a legitimate monster, and the fact they wasted him so much, so many times, I just. I mean, granted, yeah, he won the title from who did he win it from? Off the top of my head, I couldn't even tell you. But I mean, he's a champion.
Yeah.
He had his moments, but I mean, he was so like I can't even tell you the storyline he was in now, and I don't know if he's a heel or a face. He's basically Big Show all over again.
Kind of, yeah.
So I'm not shocked business wise that he got let go, but the fact that they're dropping so much talent, Ruby Riott never got to achieve what she should have. Tremendously talented. At this point, the WWE might as well get rid of their women's tag team championship because there's only 2 tag teams on the roster.
Mm-hmm.
Dana Brooke and Mandy, and then you got Shayna and Nia.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and then
Natalia
you got
and
the actual champions, Natalia and not Beth Phoenix. Shout out to Beth Phoenix. I wish she come back.
Snuka.
Snugger, thank you.
Tamina.
But Tamina. But
sorry.
it's just you might as well get rid of those titles because one, the women's wrestlers are being underutilized again, and then there's not enough tag teams on the roster.
And I mean, even as far as like Lana goes, you know, she was with Naomi, and they were doing. I don't even think they had a name for their tag team, but I don't know, Glow Sisters or whatever you wanted to call them. You know, it was an entertaining mid card match, and I'm normally not a big Lana fan, and I think you've known that in the past. But her in-ring talent was starting to grow so much, especially working with Tyson Kidd and Natalia at their wrestling school in Canada. She was starting to show more and more promise each time she got in the ring.
You know, she was awesome to Miro Rusev. She helped elevate him as his manager. But her in-ring work was getting so much better, and it looked like she was gonna get a push. She got a little bit of it, but I mean, she took so much, and you know, people thought she was getting punished because of her husband going to AEW. She was earning her respect. She was paying her dues. She was taking the bumps. She was learning how to do this, and she's getting better. I hope she does go somewhere else, if not back to WWE at some point. I hope she continues because there's definitely an upside. She had the look. She could go. She was just on the upward climb. She just wasn't there yet. It's sad to see so much talent go, and the talent is there. Just never got utilized.
No, and speaking of, it wasn't on Bleacher Report, I believe it was on one of the other dirt sheets that they had. Allegedly, there's more cuts coming. So, I mean, especially after seeing Aleister Black and some of these other guys cut, it almost makes everybody at WWE kind of get on edge or get on point. Like, I can be gone at a moment's notice.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, and unfortunately, you've got, I mean, I want to see, I've been waiting for her to come back, but unfortunately, you got people like Eva Marie coming back. You've got Taya Valkyrie or Frankie Monet just coming into the company, and I imagine their contracts aren't as significant as some of the others, but I mean, I'd be nervous if I was a WWE talent. It's like, because I mean, they're trying to beef up their cash and make the company look better than it is. I think, my own personal opinion.
And that goes along with the rumor that NBC is trying to purchase, which, again, going back to that, if Vince McMahon sells, I'm going to be very upset.
The man's a business genius. I mean, he's obviously going to be doing it for his own reasons. Of course, I imagine I imagine if they are getting ready to sell the company, they're gonna keep the board on. So I mean, McMahon will still be Mr. McMahon, excuse me, will still be part of the board. He'll still be in charge of his part of the creative. He'll still be putting on his show for him every week, and that's kind of how I've been seeing it
Right.
the last few weeks. It seems like it's a one-man show.
Right.
So I mean, you're by no means gonna see Vince out of the company anytime soon. So I mean, it might be a good move on his part. He's padding his pockets, and at the same time cementing the legacy, getting some better backing behind it. I don't know.
Yeah, you might be right. I mean, only time will tell. We'll see what
I
happens.
agree. And then moving on. So moving from the release talent, going back to the actual show. I'll go ahead and admit it. Monday Night Raw and everything has been kind of iffy lately. Not a whole lot going
Yeah.
on with many of the storylines that they did have, and when the ones they did have, they're getting rid of. But this one, you've got the Bloodline coming in. Still a phenomenal storyline every week. You've got Jimmy Uso that just came back. Um, so now you've got him. You got Jay on Roman Reigns' side. Jimmy Uso's kind of being the pushing force now. What do you think about it?
So the Bloodline storyline obviously is my favorite in wrestling. I think it speaks volumes to Roman Reigns' progression as a character and my, and performer. It's my favorite storyline. Jimmy and Jay right now, you could obviously tell they're not in the same mindset where one is ready to separate himself from his cousin and be the
Mm-hmm.
Usos, where the other is the right hand man seated at the hand of the father right there. I mean, it's an awesome dynamic that's gonna implode at some point in time, and I love the fact that this tag team was elevated to main event status as they deserve. They are incredible
Mm-hmm.
workers, the Usos, Jimmy and Jay. So to see them weekly main event, either singles or tag, is going to be awesome. It, the implosion has to happen. Now, who sides with Roman and who doesn't, we'll see. Um, I still think there's some payback there for the Usos for Roman for what happened with the I Quit
Mm-hmm.
match. Um, but it's all about long-term storytelling, and this one is not stale. This one is continuing. Um, and like we've said, you can continue this to bring The Rock back. Um, there's a lot of money of putting gold on all three of those men. Roman already has it. You put gold on the Usos, and now you got the Bloodline owning SmackDown.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I would have loved if he would have got in on it. I mean, I wouldn't even be mad if Naomi by marriage gets in on it because Lord knows she needs some help with the character right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but there's so much you could do with this story. I'm invested. This one's good. This is my favorite story in professional wrestling right now.
So I mean, and that's the thing. You have this whole bloodline angle, and you have so many superstars that are part of the bloodline in the WWE still. Um, that, like you said, put the tag team gold on the Usos. You can have Tamina and Nia team up again. Tamina and Naomi. They're all part of the same family. You get this massive stable. And then you think of the again going fingers crossed, hoping for this whole cross brand stuff. Should
Yeah,
New Japan start working with WWE, or if Major League Wrestling, if the rumors of them working across with NXT and WWE is true, you've got even more. You've got MLW. You have the MLW Heavyweight Champion, the
yeah,
Samoan Werewolf,
yeah,
Jacob Fatu. Uh, Again,
yep,
part of the bloodline. You've got Tamatonga and uh, Tongaloa, excuse me. You've got the Go
Tangaloa,
yeah,
there you
you got the God over in New Japan that's part of the bloodline. So you can just have this massive Samoan family. Hell, bring the Samoan dynasty up, you know. But then
go.
yeah, like you said, ultimately you can head it off. You got WrestleMania in Hollywood, which is what we've been predicting is going to be the culmination point for that storyline eventually.
Yes.
Um, And then you've got The Rock basically coming in and saying, "Hey, this has always been my table. I've just allowed everybody else to eat at it now that I've had my piece."
Right.
Um, so a phenomenal story, and I do like how they're keeping the outside influences still coming at it, even though you've got the internal struggle, like we were saying earlier. You've got the tease of Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns,
Yes.
which we've all seen in the past. Which, whether they're tag teaming or going against each other, they're going to put together some great matches, and it's not really needed, but it gives you the outside protagonist on top of that internal struggle while you're waiting for that to happen. While that's cooking and boiling, you still got the action on the outside. You're still getting some good matches there. So
Absolutely. I mean, that's long-term storytelling is we give you a little bit here, but we also got something cooking over here. We're going to sprinkle a little bit of that, but you're also going to see this.
hmm
While we're touching on Seth Rollins, I need to figure out who his personal stylist is because them suits.
getting
At first, I wasn't in, but when he showed up with that sugar skull suit, I need that. I need that drip. But seeing him and Roman tease,
I'm on.
I'm in. Like there's the history.
hmm
It's there. And that little tease was enough. That's gonna build to that. And they continue that. Anytime they run into each other, there's that stare down.
hmm
Like roads are gonna cross here sooner or later. Um and then the Usos again, we go back to that storyline where we know that road's gotta cross sooner or later. And then like you mentioned, WrestleMania in Hollywood and Cali again. It's it roads got to cross there, and I feel that's the money fight where The Rock comes back, and yeah, he's exactly like you said. Like this is my table. I've allowed you guys to eat, but ultimately, obviously, needing to do the right thing and pass the torch. But that has money written all over it. It's already wrote. Paul Heyman again being a factor in that he plays his character very well. That stooge behind that yes man behind Roman. But we also got to remember he also has a certain beast that should be coming back soon, and I want to know what that dynamic is.
And so that's what is going to be one of my other thoughts is you've got Brock coming back. Eventually, Heyman's going to have to pick a side. Do you want to be the advocate, or do you want to be, what does he call himself, the personal consultant for Roman Reigns?
Yeah.
So at
Yep.
some point he's gonna have to take that pick. I honestly want to see him take Lesnar's side. Lesnar beat Reigns for the title, and then you've got that whole lineup from December of 2022. Going into the Royal Rumble, you can have The Rock come back as a surprise entrant. Even if you have, and then I don't know, hell, Fastlane or something. You've got some jobber, excuse the pun, but some jobber pay per view where you've got the Rock
Yeah.
and Lesnar, and they just Rock ends up with the title against Reigns at Mania. There's so many options to that. Um, Side note, I've also decided that at some point the WWE creative just needs to get fired as of late and just turn the whole creative department over to Paul Heyman and Triple H and just get the hell out of the way.
I agree. I
Um,
agree.
you really want to build the company up. You really want to give these other promotions, just any kind of run for their money. Those are the two men you let them run rampant. Maybe let them keep. You have your Scotty 2 Hotty and your Brian Kendrick and all those that are continuing with the training and the promos and stuff.
Mhm.
Let those two men take over creative. Um, I mean, Triple H Triple
You
H being on WWE Treasures hunting down artifacts every week is
yeah.
cool, but I mean, give the man his due. Let him run his business the way it needs to be ran.
Yes. You keep your agents. Your agents are doing the best they
hmm
can. There's a great TikTok trend right now where somebody's asking if you were the owner of WWE, what would you do? What changes would you make? Creative definitely has to go. Um, Hell, you could hire me and you, and I guarantee you, we'd bring in more ratings than 1.4 million that this past Monday Night Raw did, which is a
What
travesty.
second lowest in Monday Night Raw history? I mean,
Yes, travesty. And the bad thing about it is anytime they hit a ratings low, they blame their champion, and that's Bobby Lashley, and that has nothing to do with him. He's playing his character great,
hmm
living it up in the MVP Lounge with MVP. Which shout out to MVP. He teased a nice little meeting with the Street Profits, which they might have something cooking in there too. We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times it reflects on your champion, and no, absolutely not. Creative is trash right now. You constantly see the same things. For some odd reason, I got nothing against Nikki Cross, but for some odd reason, 2 minute matches. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, beat the timer matches too at that.
Yes.
Beat the clock.
Are you kidding me? That's what we're using her for, rather than just a straight up match. And she can go with Rhea Ripley.
Mm-hmm.
She can go with Charlotte. But if they can't beat her in 2 minutes, it's over. That's a slap in the face to Nikki Cross.
I agree.
Saying you can be beat in this time. I don't know how many countless interference matches or, roll up pins or DQs or count out, or I've just seen the same matches over and over and over again. There is nothing fresh.
Every week it's the same. It's the same routine. I can almost watch. You can watch Monday Night Raw and guarantee that you're gonna have Lashley coming out. McIntyre is gonna come out, which it sucks because I love Drew McIntyre. I love his character. I love how far he's come since he was the Intercontinental Champion back in 2009.
Yeah,
he's come so far from everything. To see him just like it is, you just get stuck in this continual motion of repetitiveness.
yes.
And that needs to change, or again, they're just going to continue to lose out.
Absolutely.
So breaking away though, you did mention MVP and the Street Profits, which is a very unlikely pairing. And as we know, I love talking about unlikely pairings. What do you think of this tag team, the RK Bros?
This came out of left field.
Yeah, it did.
And big ups to Randy Orton for asking to work with him, for asking to work with the bro Riddle. I don't know where they're going with this, and that's the point. I'm expecting Randy Orton to hit him with an RKO somewhere, and it hasn't happened yet, but it's gonna. And if I'm creative,
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking about that because every fan is thinking that it's going to be Randy Orton. I would use that because I would have Riddle turn heel on Orton later down the road.
Mm-hmm.
Later down the road. Right now, let's enjoy this odd pairing.
It's
Riddle hitting the RKO and then getting called out on it on Twitter by Randy Orton. Priceless.
Mm-hmm. And then this last week on SmackDown, you had Randy Orton hit the Bro Derek. I mean, I still think it was completely unscripted. I think they did that just as a one-upsmanship, which is going to start a good trend for them too. Riddle's reaction was a little bit too surprised, in my opinion. I think that was an honest work. I think that was to see what what his reaction was really going to be. I don't think that was the original finish to that match, so I'm glad it happened. It was a nice finish, nice touch by Randy Orton, who he's always been a showman. So
absolutely, my only problem is if they're making a run at the tag team titles, it's AJ Styles and Omos. And until I see more from Omos, I don't think I'm ready to let him drop the title just yet. But again, this is long-term storytelling. Let's build up this odd couple partnership and see where it goes. It reminds me somewhat of Team Hell No, where they had no business being partners together, no business being on the same page, but each one of them gets something from the other. I mean, seeing Riddle stick up for Randy Orton when Woods was in his face and shoving him, they could go a lot of ways. And since I brought up Woods, I'm gonna say right now, there is nobody in the wrestling business, AEW, New Japan, TNA, wherever, that have better ring attire than the New Day.
I will say that their Mortal Kombat
The
attire
white and green Ranger. Are you kidding me?
The new white and green Power Ranger attire is amazing.
No way. Those guys have made it. I mean, they set the bar for ring attire, and I mean, they continue to kill it. And when they brought out the Power Ranger, I'm done. I'm sold. Like, no one's touching them. I don't care who you are. Your ring attire will never top the New Day.
No,
whoever's doing it is phenomenal.
Well, and I mean, they've had the same seamstress in WWE for a while. I think it's just the perfect pairing of Xavier Woods, who is an amazing cosplayer, and he's shooting his ideas at their seamstress team and coming up with these amazing ring attires. So mad props to all of them for getting that done. That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm going on record now. Don't at me.
I'm
Don't nothing me. It's the New Day.
I'm kind of curious what if Jason David Frank would have anything to say, because they're like, you look at the pictures of Kofi in the Green Ranger outfit, and that is a legitimate Dragon coin, or Dragon Zord power coin on his morpher, on those trunk or on those pants, man. That there's
I would.
it's not
I'd
altered.
love to hear his reaction.
Yeah, because I mean, it's not even altered like the Mortal Kombat Dragon was, where it was like the unicorn head instead of the dragon head. So like, it was just a legit straight rip off of the Dragon Zord coin. So
No, he definitely needs to say something about. I would love to see him on Monday Night Raw with those guys and see them fan out with
that'd
them
be
because that'd be
that
dope.
would be awesome. Speaking of great wrestlers, this last week we had Jim Ross pose the question of who is the GOAT. Um, so what was Jim Ross's his theory behind it right now?
So to paraphrase, he was asked who he thought was the greatest, the best in the world, basically right now, and he said Randy Orton. And he said, a lot of people are going to say Kenny Omega. A lot of people are going to have their reasons, but Randy Orton. Now, obviously, Kenny Omega had something to say about that. He disagreed with Jim Ross. I mean, and staying in character, rightfully so. I honestly don't think Kenny Omega is bothered by anybody saying somebody else is the best in the world and the greatest of all
Hmm.
time. But staying in character had mentioned, I'd rather not agree with somebody who called me the WWE champion
On live
um,
television, yeah.
on live television. Um, and, Jim Ross has made mistakes plenty of times. He kept calling Jeff Hardy Matt Hardy for the longest, which always bothered me. That's neither here nor there. Um, but Jericho added in his 2 cents, and being the humble man that he is, stating, he's wrestled everybody from, Kenny Omega's to the Randy Ortons to Roman Reigns to John Cena. And he says Kenny Omega is the best in the world.
Hmm.
Now, obviously, it's strictly opinionated. There is no scale. I mean, you could go with title wins, but I mean, it's just title wins are just what's best for the business at the time, who's paid their dues, storylines wise. I mean, it's strictly opinion, but I think it'd be great to give our opinion.
Do you have your opinion formulated?
I do.
Okay.
And my opinion, you have to. There's a lot of criteria you have to look at. Longevity. How long have you been here? How long have you done this? Um, Character wise, have you been stale? Have you never changed with the business? Are you still you?
Hmm.
Um, and I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, Rey Mysterio has been Rey Mysterio for his entire career, and there's been no real change there, which is fine. He's a permanent
Hmm.
face. Um, but for me, to talk about the best in the world, the greatest of all time, thinking about longevity, thinking about evolution of your character, um, and the places you've been, the people you've wrestled. There's only one man that comes to mind for me, uh, and that is the leader of the Inner Circle, Chris Jericho.
Okay.
We're talking longevity. This man has been wrestling. I mean, I'm 30. I'm sure this man's been wrestling longer than I've been alive.
Hmm.
He's been everywhere: Mexico, Japan, the U.S. He's been in every major company: WCW, cruiserweights. I mean, WWE. He went to New Japan. He first ever AEW champion, but his character has always changed. He's never just been him. He could have stayed. Oh, let's not forget ECW.
Hmm.
He could have stayed Lionheart. He could have stayed that. I mean, I mean, he could have done that, but he evolved. Next thing you know, he's coming out with light up coats.
Hmm.
Um, Now again, he had his finishing moves. He had his Lion Salt and the Lion Tamer, the Walls of Jericho. That wasn't enough for him. He evolved. Next thing you know, he's doing a code breaker.
Hmm.
Cool. Hell yeah. Some double knee to the face. I'm all for it. He could have stuck with that, and now he comes out with the Judas effect.
Didn't he have the
He
Painmaker
he,
too for a little
he
bit?
evolves, and he had the
Yeah.
Painmaker too. Absolutely. He evolves. He's never, and he'll tell you when he returned to WWE, with the Save Us Y2J with Randy Orton feud. He said it felt like too much of his original run, and he had to change, and he became what he called the No Country for Old Men type bad
Hmm.
guy, the Javier Bardem character, where he was quiet, he wore the suits, and then becomes the Painmaker, and I mean now Le Champion. I
The
mean,
Demo God,
come
yeah.
on, the demo god. I mean, he continues to change and continues to perform at the highest of levels. Um, that man right there to me is the best in the world,
Hmm.
and he will be on my Mount Rushmore. He will go down as one of the greatest of all time.
I completely agree. Okay, so jumping into what you were saying, like with the criteria. Um, when I think of when see in like to me in my opinion, there's a difference between the GOAT and there's a difference between the best in the world. Um,
Yes, absolutely.
so and like I said, there's criteria. You have your style, you have like you said your longevity, your ability to evolve, your ability to stay the same and stay prevalent. Um, so I mean, like I will agree with you that as far as the GOAT is, I'm gonna go with Jericho. Like you said, he is ever evolving. He stays relevant. He changes his character just enough to make it something fresh. Whether, like you said, he's coming out as with the spike jacket and the fedora, or he's got the list, or he's got he's constantly changing his character just enough. Um, Now, as far as style goes, like you have like your luchadors. You see big names like was it Messias? You've got big names like
Yes.
Rey Mysterio. Um, Even as far as Ricochet, when I loved him as
Yeah.
Prince Puma. Um,
Oh man.
yeah. So I mean, you look at those specific styles and you think, okay, he is the best of that area. You take
Mhm.
somebody like that and you put him up against like a new style technical wrestling like Will Ospreay or um, I can't think of his name off the top of my head. But I mean, even if you go NWA, you've got a strong style technical wrestler, Nick Aldis, who's the champion right now. They're
Mhm.
all great in their own minds, and then I would say that they're the best in their fields. You go technical wrestling hands down. You've got Dean Malenko and Triple H. You can't really have
God.
you can't really have a goat over one style like you said. Um, so as far as best in the world, I really can't pin it down to just one. There's tons of best. There's tons of guys that go out there and give it more than anybody. And it's ironic because you think of best in the world and stuff like that. And ironically, CM Punk and The Rock and Stone Cold, while they're all legends, while they're all great, um, superstars nowadays or wrestlers nowadays have to show so much more to get past that bar that these other wrestlers have set, and they've surpassed it constantly. Um, so yeah, as far as best in the world, I really don't have a best in the world. You have best in there, and Kenny Omega is definitely included in that. Um, and then I mean, sorry to keep jumping off track, but you even have like tag teams. How do you pick a best in the world or the greatest of all tag team? You've got the Hart
Right.
Foundation, you've got the British Bulldogs, you've got the Hardys, you've got FTR, you've got the Four Horsemen for crying out loud. You've got so many great tag
Right.
teams. You can't just pick one. Um, you have the greatest of their genre, but the actual goat, I do agree. I'm gonna go with Jericho. Um,
Okay.
he's just continuously let it all go every single time, and he continues to keep giving back to the wrestling business. But I'm gonna go ahead and kick it over to our fans at this point. Let us know what you guys think is the GOAT. Who are your favorites? Who's the GOATs?
Yeah.
Please feel free to remember, like, subscribe, share the videos, comment, show us some love. We'll show you some love back.
Also,
Oh,
before we wrap it up, since you mentioned Dean
oh yeah.
Malenko, did you see the cool spot between him and Jericho on AEW?
I did.
Where he said, you're the man of 1,000 holes. He said, well, you still got a few more than me. Jericho looked at him and said, I forgot some. If you don't know where that's from and why that's funny, you don't know wrestling. Go back and watch WCW. Because that right there made me laugh so hard. Like, holy shit, they paid that off 20 years later.
They did.
So that was awesome.
That's again long-term storytelling.
Long-term storytelling. We keep coming back to it. But absolutely, fans, let us know who you think is best in the world and give us your take on who's the greatest of all time. Like and subscribe, please. We got some good things coming for you. We'll be more active. We're under construction. It's going to be beautiful.
Yeah, and as it goes, I'm Christopher Hart.
King Cruz.
And just like it says in the bottom corner over there, Jobber Jab is for life. See you next time.